Welcome to the most electric podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. This right here is Grant Mitchell. He's doing a lot of writing. We were talking about that this morning. We're going to be nice to him today. And you can't teach that. Bada boom, man. The people in the room, how you doing? Welcome to Ride the Line.
Welcome to Ride the Line, Tanner. We're just two busy bees right now because we've got so much going on in the sports world. And unfortunately, some of that noise coming to your Boston, your what I don't want to say your hometown because that's not your hometown anymore. What do I call Boston? A place in your heart?
I'm moving back to Boston. So it is my hometown. It's a place in my heart. I love the city. And the Boston Red Sox actually have a 1-game lead over the New York Yankees in the standings, the AL East, and they're only a half game out of the wild card. So like things are pretty good right now for Red Sox.
They're in fourth, Tanner.
They're a half game out of the wild card, Grant. And 3 of the teams in the wild card, like so you got the Astros, the Blue Jays, and the Orioles. If you look at those 2 of those teams, they're in the AL East. Grant, the AL East, best division in baseball. It's no surprise. They're battling. And the New York Yankees have a record below the Boston Red Sox. So things are pretty good for Red Sox fans. Bruins and Celtics, though, not too hot. Like the Bruins, I'm just going to say, they're an embarrassment to the sport of hockey. All these people like, they had a great year. No, it was a disappointment. If you were the best team and you lose in the first round, you were up 3-1 in the damn series and you end up losing. Not only you go to game 7 and you go to overtime in game 7. They looked scared. They looked horrendous the entire game. I knew it was over. I said it from the first period. I'm like, this game's over. They're not going to win. Florida looked so much better than them. That was embarrassment. Then so I lost a lot of money there because I had some futures on them. And then, Celtics. Oh, we got the Celtics still. We got Jason Tatum. We got Jaylen Brown. We're good. Like these guys are going to at least do something for me. And then they blew a double-digit lead last night without Joel Embiid on the floor. So it's just embarrassing. Tatum looking for a foul all the damn time. He was fantastic last night. I don't want to say he wasn't, but every time he misses, he gets up, he looks around like, where's foul? And then he just jogs back down the court. And then Maxey is just like drilling shots because Tatum's not covering him because he's not running down the floor. Embarrassing.
Hey, Tanner, here's one thing you can hold on to. Remember, this is courtesy of our friend Giannis. There's no failure in sports.
That's
right?
such a lie. That's such
such a lie.
What's your take on that? That was stupid.
So, like, here's the thing. I love Giannis, and I love that he gave this answer because it was, even though it was, you and I don't agree with it, it wasn't like him fighting back at the reporter necessarily. I think what he was doing was he was trying to open just a dialogue about life and how you progress. And I understand what he's saying because like he referenced Michael Jordan. He won 6 championships. He was 6-0 in the finals. He never got to a game 7. A lot of people consider that the greatest achievement in the history of basketball. But Giannis was saying, so those other 9 years, was he a failure? Here's how I would say it. I wouldn't say Michael Jordan was a failure, but I would say he failed in those 9 years. Like if you're Giannis, you're the best basketball player in the entire world. You had the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. You had home court. I understand that you only played in 2 of the 5 games. And look, Giannis went down 0-2 the year he won the NBA Finals. They won 4 straight against the Suns. So who knows in an alternate universe if he played all of the games if they would have won the series. But the bottom line is, sure, this season doesn't make you a failure, and it doesn't make your team a failure. But for those 365 days, you had a goal to win the championship. Your expectations at the worst were to make the Eastern Conference Finals at the worst. And a lot of people would still consider that a failure. And you didn't do it. So yes, it is a failure. Sports are a success and failure-driven industry. Like there is a championship every year. It's the Super Bowl. It's the NBA Finals. It's the World Cup. It's the Stanley Cup. If you don't get that and you're in a crop of teams that are actually able to compete for it, then you did fail. Now, if you're a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who picked second in the NBA draft, or second or third, I can't remember which one, and you're supposed to be at the bottom and you make it to the play-in tournament, then you didn't fail because the expectations were at a different level. But again, if you're in Giannis' situation, yes, you absolutely failed. It doesn't mean you're a failure. I understand that it's a conversation about life and how you have to go through downs before you can go through ups, but still, it doesn't change what happened this year.
Yeah, and Michael Jordan's ultra competitive, and if you would have asked him if he failed in the seasons they didn't win a championship, he would 100% said yes. So I like the Michael Jordan reference, but I don't because Jordan's a winner.
Kobe said after a year where I don't know if he lost the finals or just got knocked out of the playoffs. I forget which year exactly it was. But somebody asked him if it was a failure of a season, and he said, "We came here to win the championship and we didn't." So yes, it was a failure. That's the right answer for a team that is contending for a championship. Again, doesn't make Giannis a failure, just means the past year was a failed year.
Yeah, the Bruins are a failure. They're the players maybe not a failure, but the Bruins as a team and a franchise this year are a failure. And the same thing will be for the Celtics if they lose to the Sixers. And last night they were a failure because Joel Embiid wasn't even on the floor and they blew a game that they shouldn't have lost. And this is the same thing we saw in the Hawks series. We can transition this. But before we do that, we got to give the shout out to WSN. Make sure you go to WSN, follow the page, like the page, smash the subscribe button, share this podcast, do it all. Get into the content, dive head first, take a deep dive, and get into it because it's elite and you're going to love it. So make sure you head over to WSN, smash that subscribe button. But anyways, Grant, the Celtics were an embarrassment. If they lose this series, they will be a failure. And at the same time, too, you look back at the Hawks series. This game last night reminded me of some games in that series. It was like they just don't feel like playing half the time. Like they don't. They just say, hey, you know what? We're going to sit back on defense. We're going to let you make shots. We're not going to have that killer mentality. As good as Tatum was, he kind of went cold in the spots that we needed him to make some shots. I was actually out at Buffalo Wild Wings with my buddy last night, and we're watching the game, and Tatum had 37 points with like 3 minutes to go. Celtics were in a position of power, and they were in position to win the game. And I said to him, if Tatum doesn't hit 40, the Celtics will lose this game. He had 39.
He didn't make a field goal for the last 11 minutes either. And I mean, the Celtics gave up a 12-4 run at the end of the game. By the way, guys, in case you didn't see the game, 76ers win this one 119-115. Harden hits a step back three with just about 10 seconds left to put them up 2. Celtics turn the ball over. Marcus Smart was great in the closing minutes, but then he commits the foul and he has the terrible turnover at the end of the game, which kind of lost it for him. That's just what the ups and downs you expect with Marcus Smart. But yeah, I mean, Tanner, I told you about this in our, was it in the group chat or in our text messages, whichever one it was. I texted you and I said after the game, I was a proud 76ers money line ticket holder. And yes, you know what, Tanner? Exactly the things you were talking about. This is just what we expect from the Celtics. The Celtics, they have a lot of the same Lakers problem. I mean, how many times have we gotten on this show and said the Lakers absolutely should have won this game, but they just didn't show up. Anthony Davis got 12 points. LeBron didn't even try. The Celtics have that same gene in them where they're just random games that there's no reason they should lose it, and that's what ends up happening. So I bet the 76ers because this was a perfect spot for the Celtics to disappoint you. I mean, this should be a sweep. They've owned the 76ers historically. They're at home. Embiid, who's going to win MVP, is not playing. The Celtics basically didn't have a center for half of the night, and when Paul Reed in there, he wasn't providing any sort of interior defense. Like, the Celtics shot close to 60% from the field. They could not miss in the first quarter. Didn't they start 13 of 14 or 14 of 15 from the field?
Yeah,
it was just an offensive explosion. It was a masterclass. And similar to what I was saying with the Knicks Heat game, which we're going to get into later, but the Knicks had everything go right for them, and they only went into halftime up by 5 points. When halftime rolled around for the Celtics, I said, the Celtics should be winning by 30 or 40 points. There is absolutely no reason for it to be this close right now. And Tatum, it was the second quarter where he was just not missing. He was unconscious. I said, Tatum is just a quarter-to-quarter guy. I guarantee you he's awful in the third or the fourth quarter. It ended up being the fourth quarter, and that's why they lost.
I haven't seen him put together like a full game this year. And also just picking on some players. Derek White, how many turnovers did he have down the stretch? He was horrendous. Malcolm Brogdon made a couple big shots, but then he's pulling up, taking shots that he has no business taking. Jaylen Brown pretty much quiet the entire night, like didn't do enough.
Hold on, let's stop on Brown though, because he was 8 of 10 from the field. He had 23 points. Like, objectively, he was good. He just didn't shoot the ball.
Yeah, he didn't do enough. Like, he didn't have the killer mentality. Maybe because Tatum had it, but like down the stretch, Tatum got really cold. Let's see who else I can pick on. Horford made a few big shots. He didn't really play that big of a role. Like, I'm putting this game on their lack of defensive effort. And there's been so many games this season where they come out and shoot 60% from the field and end up losing because they just don't play defense. And we saw it in the Hawks series. Like, there were games when it was like, hey, you go win the game. Like, we don't want to win it. Like, we're good. We're good. We're going to beat you anyways. But the Sixers, I feel a little more concerned about because they do have talent. And when Embiid comes back, and I think he's probably not going to play in game 2. But when he does come back, like, the Sixers are a competitive team, and you got to go to Philly, and that's a hostile environment. Like, game 2 is a must win for Boston right now. So am I concerned? No. but still, I would have rather had them win game one.
The only reason, if this was any other series, I would say that if the Celtics lose game two, the series is over. I'm not going to say that because Embiid, we don't know how long he's going to be sitting out. Skip Bayless said on his show that he has some torn knee ligaments. I haven't seen that report corroborated by anybody else, but everybody's saying that he's got some sort of problem with his LCL at the very least. So is he going to come back in the series? And when he does, is he going to have a brace on? How good is he going to be? We kind of don't know. So pretty much no matter what happens, I can't say the series is over because the Celtics are clearly superior to the 76ers. And I mean, James Harden was excellent. He had 45 points. He was hitting so many clutch shots, but it did tie a playoff career high for him. And Harden isn't the most clutch player to begin with. He's not in the best shape anymore. He was shooting 37% from the field entering this game. So you're not going to be able to get that level of performance from him. Also, you're not going to get DeAnthony Melton getting 17 points in the first 10 minutes of the basketball game just to keep you in contact. A lot of things did go right for the 76ers to win this game. And based on the shooting splits, whatever they break down to, I think it was 58, 38, and 94 for the Celtics. No team in NBA history has ever lost having those shooting splits. So very much an aberration type game, and it really depends on what's going to happen moving forward. But what I do have to say is a bigger concern just from the broader picture. Tanner, Joe Mazzulla just got out-coached again, and he got out-coached against Quinn Snyder in a couple of games at the end of that series, and he couldn't figure out how to get Tatum going in those moments where he needed to. Again, Jaylen Brown had a cooking, but there was no emphasis on getting him the ball. And then James Harden was pretty much getting whatever he wanted on the defensive end in the fourth quarter. If you're Joe Mazzulla, you got to find a way to first of all help your guys and take away from the 76ers guys.
He doesn't coach. Like I'm dead serious. Like he does not coach. He just lets these guys go out and play. Do you notice that? Like he has no fire. There's absolutely no fire in this guy.
I mean, I would never say he doesn't coach. But
you know what I mean?
There's no
fire. There's no fire.
You don't have noticeable in-game adjustments coming from the Celtics, is what I will say.
Never. It's just like Tatum and Brown. Hey guys, go play schoolyard basketball. We don't play defense. Just go make shots. Like that's what it seems like to the outside perspective. Like I've never seen him get after anyone. He should be getting after Tatum's ass every time this man misses a free throw and complains about a foul shot because he's not getting back in transition and he's not playing defense. And that's a problem. Like the biggest problem for the Celtics this season has been their lack of defense. Obviously, Tatum going cold, but I will give Tatum some credit. He steps up when he needs to step up consistently. Like when you need a shot in the fourth quarter and he's been bad the whole game, I'm still okay with him having the basketball in his hands. But defensively, this team needs to figure it out. Now, going into game two, Grant, I will lay the 9 points with the Boston Celtics here because this is usually their MO. They play terrible in game one. They come out, their defensive effort's insane in the next game, and they still shoot 60% from the field.
Yeah, I got bit by this with the Suns and the Nuggets. I had the same approach going into game two, and the Nuggets ended up covering. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. I would be leaning more towards the Celtics as well. I'm probably not going to bet this game just because the 9 is pretty high, and I don't have total confidence in the Celtics. But I do think if you were forcing me to bet, I would go with the Celtics at -9. Again, so much went right for the 76ers. Harden's been inconsistent. I mean, the Celtics, we can talk about they threw the game away, but they still had an utterly incredible offensive performance. We've seen that they can do it to the 76ers team. And the 76ers just had no resistance on the interior without Embiid. It really showed what he means to the defense. Not that we ever questioned it. Like they had the #1 defensive rating in the playoffs and in the regular season, but it looked like an all-star game without Embiid in there. There was just nothing they could do to keep the Celtics out of the paint. So would not be surprised if the Celtics win that game like 130-110, but still, personally, I'm probably not going to bet on that one.
Yeah, play the over, probably. That's the best move. Warriors, Lakers, Grant, I'll let you kick it off here because you're the LeBron super fan here. The Warriors did win the last series, and I just say I called it the entire time.
I'm objective with my fandom on this show, Tanner. So let's kill that. Look, the Warriors did win that series. It took the best player for the Kings breaking a finger in his shooting hand. So let's calm down before we say it was an incredible team effort for the Warriors to win that game. Now, what I will not take away from is that was just an all-time great performance from an individual, Steph Curry. I mean, he was everything to the Warriors. I've been saying it, Tanner. How long have I been saying the Kings are a better team than the Warriors? And look, I still firmly believe that. The Kings were up 2-1 when their best player, broke a finger in his shooting hand. De'Aaron Fox's stats pre-injury and post-injury fell off a cliff. I still think they would have won the series if he was healthy. But let's take Steph and let's take Fox out of the equation, or even going into the next round. Let's take LeBron and let's take Steph out of the equation. The mismatch between the teams is glaring. I mean, the Warriors are not good. They were not good. In Game 7, Poole, Clay, and Wiggins combined for 41 points, so less than 14 apiece, on 27% shooting. Kevon Looney, seriously, Steph Curry obviously was the best player in that game, but Kevon Looney looked like the second best player on the Warriors team. A Warriors team that is the defending champions, that have won 4 out of the last 8 titles, one of the most vaunted dynasties of all time. They look awful. You take out Steph, and they look like they would be one of the 5 worst teams in the league. Seriously. And go ahead.
No, the NBA is driven around stars, Grant. Just keep that in mind.
It is absolutely driven around stars. But to see the magnitude that Steph holds, and Steph gave that, I don't know if you saw the report, but Steph supposedly gave this incredible pregame speech before they were leaving for Game 7. He said, look, if you're not ready to give everything that you have, you don't get on the bus. I don't want to see you, right? Nobody listened to him. Everybody's giving credit for giving that speech and then winning the game. Nobody stepped up except for Looney. Steph took his own advice. He had 50 points, a playoff career high, the most in the history of Game 7s. He had 38 field goal attempts. That's not Steph's MO. Like you were saying, that's the Celtics' MO to come off a loss. It's not Steph Curry's MO to come out and just jack up a bunch of shots. He's normally in the teens or the 20s. He goes for 38 field goal attempts, and he shoots over 50% from the field. Seriously, just one of the best individual performances of his career and of the past decade or so, and that's why they got in the next round. But I still don't think the Warriors are that good.
I don't think they're that good, but Steph Curry's good enough to change a game. And that's what you got to look at in this series. Is Steph Curry going to be able to take it over? Klay Thompson, Game 6, Klay did not come out, if I remember correctly, right? No, yeah. So I would be on the Lakers in this series coming up. Series price-wise, well, the Lakers are dogs in the series, I imagine.
That is beyond disrespectful, I will say too, because the Lakers, until yesterday, we're recording this Tuesday, it comes out Wednesday. So until Monday's game between Denver and Phoenix, the Lakers are second in net rating. The Nuggets used that game to move past them, so now the Lakers are third. But the Warriors are 7th. The net rating is completely different in the regular season, again, in favor of the Lakers. Their defensive rating, the Lakers are number 1 in the playoffs. Again, same thing. They were second, but the 76ers, who were first, give up so many points, they dropped to second. The Warriors have only won 1 game in their last 4 against the Lakers. The Lakers were 3-0 against the Lakers in the regular season since the trade deadline when they made all those moves. Steph Curry, ever since LeBron showed up in Los Angeles, in those 12 matchups against one another, is averaging only 21 points per game. There is just so much saying the Lakers should win this game. Also, by the way, Lakers, they're resting 2 extra days. We know how important that is for someone who's often injured like Anthony Davis and someone who's as old as LeBron James. And the Warriors had to expend all that emotional energy in a road Game 7. The fact the Lakers are dogs in this series just kind of blows my mind. I think, Tanner, we started off the playoffs giving our best bets for the NBA Finals futures. And I said, look, the Warriors being 3rd favorites in the West is just sportsbooks playing to the bettor's bias. I don't believe that they think the Warriors have the 3rd best odds in the West. I think it's that same sort of phenomenon. I think if you break this down objectively, the Lakers should be -150, -160 favorites. But the sportsbooks know the bettors are going to view the Warriors as the better team, especially with Steph dropping that 50-point game. So I think this line is disingenuous personally, and I would be hammering the Lakers.
Lakers +134 to win the series right now. Very, very good odds right there for that. That's a decent bet right there. Lakers +134. I do like the Lakers in this series ultimately. I think the Warriors will win Game 1 is in Golden State, right? It's in Golden State. Yeah, so I think the Warriors will win Game 1, and that's an opportunity to wait as well. Wait after Game 1. If the Warriors were to win that game, the Lakers' price would just be even more juicy. Now you are playing them down 1 game, but still a strategy you can take there.
I'm going to take the Lakers in Game 1. I'm going to take them with the points. I'm going to think about the money line as we get closer to the game, but I'm definitely going to be taking them with the points. And I mean, we're going to know the result of this by the time this podcast comes out. The one thing that I do want to watch in this series is LeBron James is pretty clearly injured. If you watch these games, He's had low energy in the past just because he's been getting old, but he has basically no energy. A lot of the times in offense, he's sitting in the corner. Weirdly, he was expending himself more on defense in the first round. Now, I don't know if that was an intentional game plan from Darvin Ham because Memphis allowed the lowest field goal percentage to opponents in the regular season, so they knew that it was going to be a defensive battle. Or I wonder if it was a LeBron sort of self-diagnosed plan because he knew his offense wasn't going in that first round, and he said, well, I've got to impact the game somehow. I'm really going to be looking at this game one. I don't think it's going to be a traditional LeBron feel-out game, which we were talking about at the start of the Memphis series. Even if he has a slow game, I think it's going to be because he's trying to score. He only averaged 22 points per game in the first round, shot 19% from three. Both of those are just awful. So I really do want to look at this first game and maybe even the second game to see if he is truly injured or if for some reason he just didn't have it going against the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I mean, I think LeBron needs to come out and attack. That's the way they win this series. Obviously, it can't come down to Hachimura and Reeves. Like, it just simply can't. Like, as the playoffs progress, it's got to be LeBron being the authority and AD being a sidekick. Nuggets Suns, Grant, this series probably over. You look at the Suns, their bench strength is going to hurt them throughout the remainder of the time they are in the postseason. Nuggets benches look great. Jamal Murray's been showing up. Nikola Jokic's been showing up. I've said it all along. I think we've said it all along. Phoenix's bench is a concern, and they sold their soul to get KD, and nobody won that trade. There's not one team that won that trade. Everyone got worse by it. So bringing KD in made the hype around the Suns much greater, but it's not going to lead to a championship.
Look, even if they get out of this round, there is just no way they win a championship. You cannot win the NBA Finals with this bench. And Kevin Durant finally looked human. Now, I don't know if that was an accumulation of the fatigue that they've put on his body over the past, 7 games, including game 2. I don't know if it was just an off night for him, but Devin Booker has been nothing short of sensational, and he's been better than Durant in these playoffs, which is kind of weird to say. But Chris Paul going out of that game in the fourth quarter with the groin tightness really just it emphasized the lack of depth that they had because the Suns were winning at the start of the fourth quarter, and they should have won. They should have at least covered the +4. I was the Suns +4 better. But once he went out, it was truly just 2-on-5 on offense. There was no ball movement. It was Booker and Durant just trying to put up any shots they could. Nobody to play make, nobody to facilitate unless Booker and Durant were becoming the facilitators, and in which case nobody else on their team was making shots. So they're in deep trouble. They have to win both of their next home games. Now, I'm not like you. I'm not saying the series is over because one of the biggest mistakes in basketball or just in sports is a team wins 2 games at home and you think the series is over. That's what they're supposed to do. Series doesn't start until the road team wins. But Phoenix has got to win both of those home games because there's no way in hell they're coming back from 3-1 with this roster and with this thin bench rotation.
Yeah, totally agree on that. I just think they're not that good. I think it was a waste to hammer him, Grant. And and I remember I said, hey, bet the Warriors at +900. That bet looks a little better than the Nuggets, not the Nuggets, the Suns at +200 towards the final weeks of the season.
It does. It absolutely does. I thought the Suns were better than the Nuggets. I truly did. But the level of execution the Nuggets have displayed has just been awesome. And also, they've been able to survive the minutes without Jokic. This is a pretty incredible stat. The Nuggets with Jokic on the court had the best net rating in the NBA, and with him off the court had the worst net rating in the NBA. In game 2, the Suns with Jokic +2, the Suns without Jokic +8. They figured out how to win without Jokic, and maybe that doesn't hold up for the long term, but it's gotten them these first 2 wins, and that's all that matters right now.
Yeah, definitely. Heat Knicks. We'll keep it quick because this game's actually tonight. So by the time the podcast comes out, you'll know what happens here. Jimmy Butler's questionable for tonight. Brunson and Randall are both questionable as well. I can't see Jimmy Butler playing based on that injury. His ankle must have blown up after the game. But if he is on the floor, he'll help because he's their team. This Heat team is based around Jimmy Butler, and that's it. If he's not playing, they don't have a single chance.
Well, I wouldn't go that far because Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are also questionable. So if we get a game where the 3 best players aren't playing, that's going to be pretty interesting. My betting advice, which again doesn't matter because this comes out after the game, but I would say wait right until tip-off. If you insist on betting this game, I'm just going to stay away from this because even if any of those 3 play, we don't know how effective they're going to be because of their various injuries. But yeah, Jimmy Butler has been everything for this team. He was everything in the first round. He was instrumental in them coming back to win that first game. Tanner, the question that I would ask you is that after that first game, if I'm the coach, if I'm Eric Spoelstra, I'm saying, look, we did our job. We stole home court, and we did it in game 1. I'm sending Jimmy Butler on a private jet back to Miami. You take the next few days, you get ready for game 3. Don't even worry about game 2. Like, what would you do?
I would do the same thing. You won, you got the job done. He's hurt. Obviously, if he plays tonight, like the risk reward is just not worth it. If he's got like a high ankle sprain or something, which he's probably not even going to be effective in game 3 for, but I would send him back, get him treatment, let him get around his family, let him ice up, rest, because it doesn't matter. Like they did their job. Winning one game on the road was good enough. I wouldn't force it. This is going to be a series that goes 6 or 7 games, in my opinion. Both these teams are pretty even, especially when Julius Randle does get healthy and is back in the lineup. So I would send him back. I wouldn't risk him rolling his ankle again and then being out for the remainder of the series. Because if that's the case, when Brunson and Randle do get healthy, this series would be over. Because the Knicks blew the first game. Again, we can give credit to them. We can give credit to the Heat for winning, but New York gave away the game just like the Boston Celtics did last night against the Sixers.
Yep, 100% agree. Tanner, I've got a little graphic prepared for you. Are you ready for this?
Yep, throw it up.
All right, let's get it on the screen here. I have assembled who I believe are the 10 best players in the NBA playoffs right now. Now, this is all recency bias. I don't care what they've done in the past. I don't care about the regular season. This is what has been going on in the playoffs. Now, I will admit, I started this list off because I thought I was going to include Mitchell Robinson and Kevon Looney. I was going to try to show some love to players whose impact steps above their name. But after doing a thorough review of the performances and the numbers, it ended up being pretty much all the stars that you would expect, but in different orders. And some people were omitted from this list, one of which was Jaylen Brown. Now, Jaylen Brown was going back and forth with LeBron James for my number 10 spot. The way I looked at it was Jaylen Brown was never really the best player on the floor in the first round. LeBron didn't have his stuff going, but he was the best player in a couple of games. He had the game tying overtime forcing shot against the Grizzlies, which is huge for them. LeBron played great defense. Jaylen scored more points. LeBron had more rebounds. LeBron had more assists. I think you could have gone with either one of these guys in the 10th spot because I don't think either one of them have been at their best, and I don't think they've had the highest impact that they could compared to their ceiling. Number 9, Jalen Brunson. He was the best player in the Knicks-Cavs series. The Knicks were underdogs in that. And he's also done a decent job when Julius Randle hasn't been in his best. In that first round, Julius Randle averaged less than 15 points and only 7 rebounds. Jalen Brunson said, don't worry, it's my first year in New York, but I got you. We're going to get past these guys, and we're going to do it in 5 games. Wasn't great in game 1 against the Heat, but still had 25 points, and it's a tough Heat team. Like he got banged up. Again, like we said, he's questionable. He'll be fine. Number 8, Nikola Jokic. I think Jokic, if we were going full recency bias, we'd say he was absolutely outstanding in game 2 against the Knicks. But this is a 2-time MVP, so he's being held to higher standards. And he hasn't been the best player on his team in probably half the games in the playoffs so far. That's been Jamal Murray, who's going to appear later on this list. Also, Jokic's field goal percentage is down close to 15 points on where it was in the regular season. I understand the impact that he has on the game, but also he led the NBA in plus minus this year. He's not even in the top 10 in the playoffs, so still a great player, but still not quite where he was in the regular season. His teammate, like I just mentioned, Jamal Murray, number 7. I mean, Murray has been the best player on his team in 3 or 4 of these games, and he was absolutely the best player in game 1 against the Suns. Completely took it to them. He was the reason they were able to jump out to a 1-0 lead, and I feel like that really set the tone for so much of the series. Now, he is very volatile with his scoring. We'll see him score 10 points, and then he'll have 34, and then he'll have 18, and then he'll have 37. Kind of got to ride the wave with him or ride the line, Tanner. Number 6, baby. Jason Tatum. And I'll stop after this one because this is the bottom half. But Jason Tatum was the best player in that Celtics-Hawks series. I didn't like that he allowed that game to go to 6. I think the Celtics should have got them out there in 4 or 5. And also, obviously, he lost game 1 to the 76ers, although he was brilliant. He had 39, 11, and 5. Tatum still got something to prove, even though he set Boston Celtics franchise record for average points scored in the game this series. Multi-time All-Star, went to the NBA Finals last year, but he was very disappointed in those NBA Finals. So I think he's still got something to prove, and I like the start that he's off to in these playoffs individually, but still, I don't think the team is playing as well as they probably should be.
So I like LeBron being in there over Jaylen Brown. I haven't seen him take enough authority. I haven't seen him take over a game, and he might have to, honestly, if Tatum keeps bitching the entire time. But I do like that. Jalen Brunson obviously deserves to be there. I would honestly move Jalen Brunson down, quite frankly. He's been that guy a lot for the New York Knicks because I'll tell you what, in the first series, it definitely wasn't Julius Randle. Julius Randle was just grabbing rebounds. He couldn't make a shot to save his life. Jalen Brunson was the facilitator for that team, and he's been really good. Nikola Jokic, obviously love him in there. Jamal Murray, I think, he could be in and out of the top 10 pretty easily. Let's see if he can be consistent and remain in there. But I do agree he should be there. And then Tatum, I mean, yeah, Tatum's obviously a top 10 player. I would sneak him down a little more, honestly. But he just can't finish. Like that's the problem with Tatum. You don't know what you're going to get. Like I would have rather seen 39 points yesterday with more consistency, more passing, get the ball, get other guys involved a little more, and then make that 38 milk out over the whole game instead of saying, hey, we're going to be great for 3 quarters and then go cold when we need you most. But good list, Grant. I like it. I'm here for it.
Awesome. Let's jump into the top 5 here. Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis is scoring his way down, but he's second in the playoffs in rebounding. Kevon Looney, just want to give him praise again. He's actually number 1, but he's giving you over 13 rebounds a night. He averaged 4.5 blocks per game in the first series. He has more than twice as many blocks as the next closest player in the playoffs. His offense hasn't been great. I mean, he's had a couple of 30-point games, but he's also had some 12-point, 14-point stinkers. But his defense has just been second to none. I mean, he truly is playing at a Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan type level right now. Now, it was one series, and he's going to have a tougher time against the Warriors because they are so perimeter centric. But I don't think you can look at Steph Curry's offense and say that, he's completely taken over the game. Anthony Davis is just doing that on defense, and it doesn't show up in the box score as much, but you have to put him in the top 5 purely off of his impact alone. Number 4, Kevin Durant. He's been awesome in Phoenix, although he hasn't been the best player on his team in these playoffs, which is a little strange. But he's super efficient, taking that 10 of 27 performance in Game 2 out of the equation. He's going to give you 30 a night. He's also stepping up his rebounding game. He's got over 10 boards in the last couple of games back-to-back. He's looking really good for them. I mean, this is Kevin Durant. We know what he represents in the playoffs. Number 3, Devin Booker. Devin Booker honestly had an argument to be second or first on the list because he's been so good. He averaged 37 points per game in the first round, shooting over 60% from the field. And he's been the only one on Phoenix to show up for both of these games against the Nuggets. The only reason I can't put him at number 2 is because Steph Curry scored 50 points in a Game 7 on the road against the Sacramento Kings. The Warriors were 2-20 in the regular season on the road against teams 500 or better. That's my favorite stat. And one of those wins was against a team that wasn't playing its starters. So really only one win on the road against a good team all season long. Steph led the Warriors to 2 of those wins in the first round and close it out with a 50-burger. And then number 1, Jimmy Butler. No surprise. They take out the best player in the world, Giannis. They take out the number 1 seed, the Milwaukee Bucks. He had like 15 points in the final 2 minutes or whatever the hell it was in that first round game. He was the driving force in their comeback in the first game win against the Knicks. Obviously, we're still waiting to see if he's going to play in Game 2, but I feel like you can't take him out. He is just quite literally everything for that Heat team, more than any other player is for their franchise. So he has been the best player in the playoffs so far. And Tanner, this is the top 10.
Yeah, I like it. Jimmy Butler deserves to be number 1 with Steph Curry as well. I mean, they could be interchangeable, but with what Jimmy Butler has done for the Heat, they would not have beaten the Bucks how they did without him. Steph Curry, honestly, they wouldn't have beaten the Kings without Steph Curry in there. If I had to pick who's more important, though, I would say Jimmy Butler. But even though if you take Jimmy Butler and Curry out of the equation, both those teams are losing. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, they've been great, but does it really matter? Doesn't matter, as I would say, because the bench is so bad there. And then Anthony Davis, like you said, showing up defensively. You could also make the argument for Julius Randle in this case. If you're going off AD playing great on defense, you can make the argument for Julius Randle, because I will say in the last series, like, he was fantastic on the boards. He solidified the paint. He didn't make many shots, but without him, I mean, their offensive rebounding would have been non-existent. Their rebounding as a whole would have been a lot worse. So you could make the case for Randle if you're putting AD in there. So just keep that in mind. I know you're a Lakers fan, so every Laker guy gets the nod.
Yeah, I'm as objective as they come on the airwaves. Come on now.
No, I know the Lakers guys get the nod. But if you're saying AD's showing up in the box score, you could make the case Julius Randle has shown up, or AD's not in the box score. You can make the case Julius Randle hasn't been in the box score, but he did a lot for his team in the first round. Make that case.
He did, but I don't think it was enough. I mean, again, he was the second best player on his team, sometimes the third best player. He averaged in the regular season 25 and 10. That dropped to 15 and 7 in the first round. That's too far of a drop off. I don't think he deserves to be in the top 10.
What about Austin Reeves? Where's my guy?
So if this was impact, like I was saying, players playing above the level of expectations, when I wanted to add Mitchell Robinson and Kevon Looney, Austin Reeves would have absolutely been on that list. It would have been Reeves, Hachimura, Kevon Looney, Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart, Derek White. It would have been a fun list to have made if you take out all the stars.
Get Derek White, get Mr. Turnover down the stretch
He was
out of
awesome in
there.
the first round. He was
Yeah,
awesome.
but like it was literally like he looked like he was at like you know, I don't want to say basketball for kindergarten camp the other like last night, just dribbling down. Like Derek White's trying to drive to the hoop. He's the size of a freaking munchkin, and he's trying to drive to the damn hoop, and he's like triple teamed, and he's turned the ball over. It made no sense.
You know what was actually really funny though, because Derek White is really short. On contested shots at the rim, Derek White allowed the second lowest field goal percentage. So Derek White was actually the second best like interior defender in the first round of the playoffs, which is kind of hilarious.
Did anyone shoot over him though? Like, is it just because nobody tried?
It was like a qualified number of attempts. Like he was actually like, so I mean, I just thought that was funny.
Tanner played defense in the paint.
That's the NBA. And we know something else big happened in sports recently. That was the NFL draft. Let's take it on over to the gridiron. Why don't you kick us off? Because you are the former Division I college football player.
Well, first things first, that you put on here Bryce Young. Obviously, I think the bigger story here is Will Levis just like plummeting down the draft boards, and I think he was overhyped. And we had a debate on Live Take, if you go check that out. And I had to defend Will Levis being the first pick in the draft.
You asked to defend Levis.
Yeah, but okay, he was a second rounder. So I lose by default. Like, it didn't matter how good my arguments were. I just lose by default. I think Will Levis should have went ahead of Anthony Richardson, but Bryce Young was obviously the best quarterback in this draft. He's just very short. That's a concern of mine. He stays healthy, but he's short. Like it's like Derek White trying to drive to the hoop. Like Derek White, you're not going to score over three guys who are 7 feet tall. It's just not going to happen. So Bryce Young, obviously he checks all the boxes except the height, and that's a concern for me.
I mean, yeah, Bryce Young, the big story was absolutely Levis, because everybody knew that Bryce Young was going to be drafted first overall. All you had to do was look at your local sports book, and it would have showed you that. So Levis falling to the Titans, I think it was a good spot for him. When we did our mock draft here on WSN, we had them taking Anthony Richardson. So we called the young boomer bust type quarterback. I think it does make more sense for them to go with Levis anyway, because I think he's a little more ready than Richardson, I would say. Now, Richardson's potential, I think, is much higher, but I would say that Levis could make a quicker impact. But Bryce Young, first overall, he's going to a situation where most first overall picks don't normally go to, because the Panthers have weapons. Now, granted, they traded DJ Moore, but they have DJ Chark, they have Adam Thielen, they've got Hayden Hurst at tight end, they've got Miles Sanders at running back, and the offensive line was top 5 in fewest sacks allowed last season. So he's stepping into a sort of comfortable environment. Frank Reich is there. I mean, I know he didn't do great in the end in Indy, but he actually started off decently. We know that he was there when they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles in Philadelphia. So this is a situation where he can get comfortable. And the Panthers, they're plus 330 to win the NFC South. That's third best. I don't look at this division and think it's unwinnable for them. I mean, the New Orleans Saints are the betting favorites, and they're my favorites. But the sports books have the Falcons ahead of the Panthers. I honestly would probably put the Panthers ahead of them. And I think if Bryce Young steps in, and maybe there's not as big of a learning curve as most people are anticipating, and he's able to step in like just any other rookie who would be 6'3", 6'4", I don't think it's out of the question that the Panthers can win the NFC South this season.
I think the NFC South is as wide open as you get, even with Derek Carr being there. We know Derek Carr is not, I mean, he's not a closer. I wouldn't call Derek Carr the best closer in the world. The Buccaneers are going to be in the mix. Every team in this division is going to be in the mix. So it's probably better to take the longer odds. A team that I really like, though, Grant, Philadelphia Eagles. Love them.
Yep.
Love what they're doing. I mean, they're literally the University of Georgia. That's what they are in the NFL. They got Nolan Smith at 30th overall. That guy was supposed to go really early. He could have been a top 10 pick. They get him 30th overall. They get Jalen Carter, who, I'm a little concerned about all the off the field issues, but I mean, he could be the best player in the draft. He's physical. He does play lazy at times, which kind of concerns me. But just the sheer talent and ability, like he's a perfect fit for them.
And I think you can get away with him being lazy almost because you already have Jordan Davis there. I mean, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are very much spitting images of one another in terms of what they do. Like, they're going to stuff the line. They're not sack artists. They're not going to give you double-digit sacks every year, but you already generate so much pressure with that front seven. I mean, Philly was 2 off the all-time sacks record last season. They had 15 more than the next closest team. So you don't need them to be an Aaron Donald on that line. You just need them to close the holes, apply pressure, rotate every 2 downs or so, whatever the case may be. Like, he's going to about as good of a situation as it possibly gets for a rookie. And for a team that just made it to the Super Bowl, I mean, what else can you ask to step into as a 9th overall draft pick?
Yeah, and I think too, when you look at that, like having all his Georgia boys around him is really going to help. It's going to help him bring that intensity because he's comfortable there and they're comfortable around him. So look for him to just be a havoc in the interior defense this year. Grant, are the Eagles going to win the Super Bowl? I would say yes.
I don't think it's out of the question. I mean, that's kind of a cop-out answer. I feel like you have to put the Chiefs as the favorites every year. At this stage of his career, nobody has ever been better than Patrick Mahomes. Now you still got big shoes to fill. I'm not saying he is the best player of all time because you still got to win more Super Bowls, rack up more stats. But nobody has been as good at their position as Patrick Mahomes has been right now. So when you've got quite literally the greatest football player of all time at this moment on your team, I feel like you have to make them the favorites every year.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When you look at this team, they're loaded and they have Jalen Hurts, who's an absolute dog. Money's nice, championships are better, whatever he said, right? They have a great offense, they have a great defense, they're hungry coming off last season's loss in the Super Bowl. I think it's a perfect pick. Now the odds are very short. The odds are short for the Chiefs, they're short for the Eagles. Like I don't necessarily recommend playing them at this point in the season, but still pretty good value there. The Ravens, Grant, Lamar Jackson's back. They got Zay Flowers, who is my guy. I absolutely love Zay Flowers. OBJ seems super pumped about having him there. He called him right after, and he's like, yo, I wanted Zay Flowers the whole time. So that was a pretty cool clip if you haven't seen it on the Ravens Twitter. They're going to be a havoc, I think, on offense. As long as they can keep Lamar healthy, and Lamar wants to play, because we all know the situation with Lamar. He gets out there, he says, I'm good. I don't want to play. I got a chance to win a championship. I don't want to play just to get paid. I don't like that.
It's not going to happen anymore. He just got $260 million. You don't have to worry about that.
But you know what? Like that mentality, it's in the back. Like that's a complaint I have about a guy like Will Levis. Like you didn't play in your bowl game. You didn't go to the draft the second night. Can you handle adversity? Like I want a guy, doesn't matter if I'm getting paid or not. Like I want a guy that says, hey, I want to go win a championship. You think Jalen Hurts would have been on the field in that spot?
I think it's very different. Lamar was a unanimous 2019 MVP who was overdue for a contract. The Eagles paid Hurts ahead of time. He was a second-round pick. He didn't have the same prestige. He knew he wasn't guaranteed the same money if he was somehow released from his contract and ended up in free agency. I think it's different situations.
Nobody wanted Lamar, though. Nobody wanted to pay Lamar.
Nobody wanted to pay 2 first-round draft picks and $250 million to get Lamar before the NFL draft. It's very different.
He's not worth it. Hey, I want a guy that goes out there and wants the ball. I want a guy that says, hey, I want to play football. So with that being said, we'll see what we get. Because that soft mentality, it's always back there. It's always in your head. Always back there.
The Ravens are going to be fine. And more importantly, you didn't even touch on their defense. After they acquired Roquan Smith, in the 9 games with him in the lineup, they allowed the 2nd fewest points in the NFL and the 3rd fewest yards. Their defense is elite. I mean, Kyle Hamilton was a rookie last year, and he was one of the best safeties in the league. This is genuinely a Super Bowl roster. Now, I don't know if they're going to get there because their level of performance tends to drop off in the postseason compared to where it is in the regular season. But, I mean, if there's going to be a year for the Ravens, you've got to think it's coming up in the next year or two. Maybe they top off the roster in the next free agency and they really go for it. But I'm excited to see if they can put something together this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I do like the Ravens a lot. I'm rooting for Lamar. And he didn't get as much guaranteed money as he wanted either. He took a little cut.
I think was it 180, 190, something like that?
180, 190. So he did not even get close to what Mr. Massage got down in where's Mr. Massage playing on?
Cleveland.
Yeah, up in Cleveland. Mr. Massage got a lot more guaranteed. So Lamar, like originally, I think the Ravens offered that amount of money and Lamar didn't want it, and then he ended up taking it because he knew his market value wasn't as high as he thought it was. And he also doesn't have an agent, so just guess I'm not a Lamar guy.
He has his mom.
What?
He has his mom. He tweeted that his mom was his agent.
Yeah, good law background right there. I look at some of these contracts in the NFL. I'll just read them, and it's mind blowing how much stuff. Like if you don't have anyone negotiating your contract for you, like you don't have a professional, like that's a red flag right there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I get not wanting to pay agent fees, but if you're making $250 million, like you can spare it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Come on, like it's 1%. It's come on. All right, Grant, sleeper teams. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
No, I'll go first here because I'm actually absolutely pumped up by the Chicago Bears. Now, look, the Bears were one of the worst teams in the league last year. I understand that. I understand that they have to shore up their secondary, but they added Tremaine Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds was the best player on the Buffalo Bills defense. I don't care about Tre'Davious White. I don't care about Von Miller, and I'm excited to see Von Miller back from his injury. But Tremaine Edmonds was the best player on that team. He's the quarterback of the defense. He's going to step into Chicago weirdly, similarly to how Roquan Smith left Chicago and completely transformed the Ravens. Tremaine Edmonds is going to step in, and he's completely going to bring this Chicago Bears unit to life. Now, if you don't know the importance of having a functional linebacker who can be your play caller or he can wear the what's the word I'm looking for? He can wear the headset. Gosh, I couldn't think. I almost said walkie-talkie. He can wear the headset on the field. He can be the leader on the field. Somebody who can give you 150 tackles in a season. He's going to fly around the field. He's going to be really good for them. And I also like the additions and the upgrades that the Bears made on offense in free agency and in the NFL draft. And with the trade for DJ Moore, you get Darnell Wright in at tackle. Justin Fields tied with Russell Wilson for taking the most sacks in the league last year. So now you got some more protection and some more playmakers. Fields was also maybe the most exciting quarterback in the league last year. Now, Chicago have averaged the fewest yards per game passing-wise, but that's going to be better this year because, again, the added line help and the extra weapons. And Fields also has this unique ability to run the ball. He might be the most effective runner in the league right now. I mean, I think he's better than Jalen, and it just comes down to is it him or Lamar? And based on last season, you would probably say it's Fields. So I think this is going to be a fun team to watch. And the NFC North, not that great anymore. The Vikings are going to be the favorites. The Lions are getting better, and they're getting better fast. But there's no out-and-out Super Bowl threat like there was a lot of years when Aaron Rodgers was in his heyday.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the Bears. I think they're going to be very good. I think they're going to take the next step this season. Eberflus is one of the candidates for Coach of the Year already. So you look at that. I think they're going to be very talented. My pick would be the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks could be that underrated team that not a lot of people are looking at. In the NFC West, I mean, I wouldn't call it wide open, obviously, because you have the 49ers there. But there's room for a wild card team out of this division. Can the Seahawks compete with the Cardinals? Yes, they can. Can they compete with the Rams? They sure can, based on what we saw from the Rams last season. So I like the Seahawks. Jackson Smith and Jigba, that was a huge pickup for them in the first round, wide receiver wise. Then they summed up their defense and their offensive line, added a couple good offensive linemen, good running back in Zach Charbonnet, Anthony Bradford, offensive guard. And you look at what Geno Smith did last year, you got to imagine he's only going to improve this year with some protection, with some more weapons. The offense was good last year. The defense was a problem consistently. So if they can get that defense cooking a little bit, they're going to be very talented in the West.
Yep, I like that pick. Tanner, moving on to our favorite pretty quick segment here. Did you hear? Did you hear? This one might hit home close to home, so I apologize for that. But PJ Tucker, Philadelphia 76ers, he has 25 games this season where he hasn't attempted a shot, and the 76ers are 19-6 in those games. Is this the definition of knowing your role? Is this overrated? What is this?
PJ Tucker's scared to shoot. There were so many wide open looks where I was watching. I'm like, just let PJ Tucker shoot. Let PJ Tucker shoot. And he won't pull trig. So I don't know. I mean, he gives you effort. That's all I'll say about him. He gives you an effort.
19-6. You can't argue with wins. Draymond Green says he's disappointed and lost respect for Domantas Sabonis because Sabonis didn't shake his hand after the Game 7 loss. Now, this is the same Draymond Green who said publicly, I didn't shake Tristan Thompson's interview because we're not cut from the same cloth. This is Draymond Green who tried to use Domantas Sabonis as a moon bounce and kick his lungs in. This is the same Draymond Green that has poked people in the eye, that has kicked people in the nuts, that has punched people. Is this somebody that should be giving lessons on ethics?
No, but Sabonis should have shook his hand. I think be the bigger person.
Okay, what if Sabonis shakes everybody's hand except for Draymond's because he stomped on him?
Did he do that? Did he shake anyone's hand, or he just went right to the
locker room? No. I'm just asking. Like, would that be okay?
That's even worse.
Is it?
I think. Yeah, I think it's even like you don't have to give him much. Just dap him up and like forget about it. Like be the bigger person, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Be the bigger person.
What else we got here? Bryce Harper coming back faster than anybody has ever come back from a Tommy John surgery, and he's doing it before the Chicago White Sox have won back-to-back games. Taylor, imagine you have a major operation like Tommy John surgery, and there's a baseball team out there that can't win 2 games in a row.
The White Sox need to sell their team, obviously, the ownership. And Bryce Harper's superhuman. If anyone's superhuman in baseball, it's got to be Bryce Harper. So I love this. I'm excited to watch him play tonight, and then we'll recap what he's done his first week next week on Ride the Line. But Bryce Harper's a superhuman. He hits the ball to the moon, and I can't wait.
Yep, me either. Of course, Phillies made it to the World Series last year. They're going to need him back in that lineup. One better currently tracking a $200 to $304,000 parlay. It's a 7-legger based on futures. They already hit 6 of them. Argentina to win the World Cup, Georgia to win the national championship, Djokovic in the Australian Open, the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, and UConn to make the Final Four. The last leg, Tanner, the Golden State Warriors to win the NBA Finals. Now, I don't know what it is updated now, but going into Game 7 against the Kings, they could have cashed out for $30,000. They let it ride, so you imagine the value has gone up since then. Are you cashing out, or do you have faith in the Warriors?
Cash out, because the West isn't that good in general. The Lakers will probably beat the Warriors in this series, and then the East is much better in general. So I would cash out in a minute. You can also do some cool stuff. Like if you don't want to cash out, you could obviously hedge a little bit. You could play Lakers to win the series and wait to cash out and keep waiting, so you know you're going to pay out there, and you can put bigger money on the Lakers to win the series to guarantee a profit there. So I would cash out though. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I would cash out too, and I wouldn't get cute and wait to see if they go up 2-0. Or I would just cash out.
Just cash out, yeah.
Tanner, last block here, C block. Major League Baseball stories. Mexico City madness. The Padres and the Giants had the first ever pair of MLB games in Mexico City, which if you don't know, the stadium they played in is at 7,300 feet above sea level. For comparison, the Colorado Rockies, Coors Field, they're 5,200 feet above sea level. So the points total in these games were set at 15.5 and then jumped to 19.5. Tanner, what did you make of watching the games south of the border?
Well, I hope that everyone who wants a team in Mexico City realizes that we can't put a team in Mexico City. Like nobody would ever want to play. Who would want to play in Mexico City? Like hitters, obviously, but what pitcher would want to play baseball there? This is not Major League Baseball. So all the Mexico City fans that saw it and saw this and think this is Major League Baseball, which obviously the world has changed with the internet, and everyone has access to Major League Baseball if they want it. But like this was not MLB. This was just home run derby. The balls were juiced basically. The field was short. I know Yu Darvish said something about the fences being very short as well. So that combined with this being 2,000 feet over course field level is just insane. So we can't put a team in Mexico City. Forget about it. It was fun for a 2-game series and move on.
Rob Manfred has flirted with the idea of expansion. He's talked about Mexico City. He's talked about another team back in Montreal. So, I mean, it is still alive. It definitely brings a question, though, because let's just say a team does pop up there. You have to get pitchers there, obviously. What is that going to do to the free agent market and to arbitration for pitchers? Because obviously they're going to have to be held to a different standard. But at the same time, I feel like there's just going to be innate bias. Like you look at an ERA and you say, oh, this guy has a 5.8, and who cares if he was in Mexico City? That's not good. Whereas, who knows? Maybe the next year he gives you like a 3.2. Like there's going to be some bias coming into effect there. So I still feel like there's pretty much going to be nothing you can do to reduce how bad it reflects on pitchers.
First of all, it's going to be hard enough to get Americans to go to Mexico City to play baseball in general. And then to top it off, what pitcher would ever want to go to a stadium where home runs are just flying out of the yard? Because like you said, arbitration, contracts, you can't tell how they're going to pitch at a normal field. Like, I guess you can look at road splits and home splits, but you're giving up your chance of the Hall of Fame. You're giving up your chance of being an all-star. You're giving up your chance of being an all MLB. Like it's not good. We got to move on from Mexico City. Montreal is great. Move on from Mexico City.
I wonder if the solution could be making the fences, like 500 yards or whatever.
Could you make a dome?
Feet.
If you could build, could you build would a dome help?
No, wouldn't help.
No, it would still fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might fly out of the dome.
Yeah, it could fly out of the dome.
Something that isn't going to be flying out of the dome, Jacob deGrom's fastballs, because he is sidelined. He's got some elbow inflammation. He's on the 15-day injured list. deGrom, not at his all-time best, but he's 2-0 for 2.67 ERA this year. The Rangers are 17-11. They're a game and a half ahead of the Houston Astros in the American League West. What have you seen from the Rangers so far? And then how bad do you think this deGrom injury actually affects them? Because it doesn't seem like anything serious just yet.
No, the Rangers have looked very good offensively. They've looked good. But when like the Houston Astros say, hey, we want to play baseball, this division is over, and they will steamroll every single team in the AL West. So it's fun. The Rangers lead has been fun. Let them have fun while it's lasting, but it's not going to last for long. I disagree with the Jacob deGrom, not serious. Like anything forearm tightness is serious. Like this is probably, in my opinion, this will probably lead to Tommy John surgery. Jacob deGrom's been hurt all the time, whether it doesn't or not. Like this is going to be a recurring issue over the season, and he's not going to play a lot. So the fact that the Rangers gave him so much money, the risk of that contract exceeded the reward, in my opinion, because for that contract to work out, he would have needed to make 20 starts a year, like for the duration of the contract, and be effective and be Jacob deGrom. And he really hasn't done that over his career. Like Jacob deGrom's great, but he hasn't been healthy a lot. And the best ability is availability, and that's just not in Jacob deGrom's name.
Yep, I 100% agree with that. And that's something that we were talking about at the start of the MLB season. We were looking at all the pitchers, and I was talking about the New York Mets. How could they have not seen the problem of having your two aces be an average age of 39 years old? It's the same thing with deGrom. Like, we know he's amazing, can be the best pitcher in baseball when he's healthy, but he's just not healthy that much.
He's never healthy. He's older than Clayton Kershaw, which blows my mind. I think he's older than Clayton Kershaw. Like, Kershaw's still freaking putting in, he's delivering. That man's just getting out there and shoving consistently. Jacob deGrom shoves when he's healthy, but he's always hurt. Like, so this wouldn't surprise me if it turns into Tommy John. Hopefully it doesn't. The Rangers are good, but again, the Astros are winning this division whenever they decide to win this division. It's only a matter of time.
One other star who's injured, Aaron Judge. New York Yankees, they're, what are they, 15-15?
They suck.
So they're right
That's
at
what they are.
500.
They're dog water. The New York
They're
Yankees
not doing great. I mean, look, 15-15 in a really tough division. It could be worse, but they're 22nd in runs. They're 23rd in slugging percentage. They're 27th in batting average. I mean, their pitching is kind of carrying them. They have the 10th best ERA, but for a team of stars and with Judge, who just had that incredible season, you expect more from the offense.
Yeah, the offense has been terrible. Aaron Judge hasn't played recently, obviously. I think he'll go on the injured list. Then you have Giancarlo Stanton, who's hurt. Like, the Yankees training staff should be fired. Like, every year, it's just injury. Garrett Cole is the only really good part about this team right now, along with Nestor Cortez. But the back end of their rotation should be exceptional, but they're all hurt as well. So it's just not really good for Yankees fans, and they only have an 11% chance to win this division right now from Fangraphs because of how good the Rays have been. Like, you can lose a division in the first month, and the Yankees are on the brink of losing this division already, especially when a team like the Boston Red Sox, and this Red Sox team is not a championship team. Like, if they make the playoffs, it would be an exceptional year for Red Sox fans. You don't want to be the New York Yankees and be beaten by the Red Sox in this division. You really don't want to be beaten by the Baltimore Orioles, who I think are going to be one of the best teams in this division in the coming seasons as they develop and as they get these players going. But their payroll is a smidge of the Yankees. Like, they should not be having these issues. Like, if you get hurt and you're the Yankees, you should be able to bounce back and adjust. But this team is just built around Aaron Judge.
Yeah, that's right there. That's a perfect lead into what I was going to say. If you look at a team like the Rays, who, have been sensational, if one of their best players gets injured, does the team collapse? No, they're fine. They're still going to win games. Like, that's not the case with these Yankees. The Yankees, they're so built on Judge and their stars, and we've seen it, like you just said, it's already coming to bite them. So if Judge is out for an extended period of time, they're going to be in some pretty deep shit.
Yeah, definitely. And look for Jose Ramirez to absolutely tee off on Garrett Cole tonight. So when you listen to this on Wednesday, Jose Ramirez was 3 for 5 off Garrett Cole tonight. 3 for 5. Big night for him.
Home runs? How many?
No home runs.
Couple
RBIs. Couple RBIs. 3 for 5 with a couple RBIs.
Okay. Take that to your book, even though it comes out the day after.
Yeah. But anyways, guys, Grant, did you ride today?
I feel like I did, Tanner. How about you? You riding?
I was riding all day. All day over the Celtics and the Bruins, just breaking my heart. But the Red Sox are delivering, so that's all that matters, Grant.
That is all that matters. And what matters to us more than anything is that's all of you guys. Hit the subscribe button. We are posting regular content all the time. You don't want to miss out on that. Hit the like button and also drop a comment. Leave us some feedback on who your best bets are in the MLB and in the NBA playoffs. And Tanner, that's going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line.